We're fighting a battle, we're singing the same song, trying to find someone who cares as much as we do. We're climbing the ladder, while we're sinking in this boat, trying to find someone who cares.
Hello and welcome back to Oh Babble Scribbler, the strange, vaguely podcasty show. I am Scribbler, your host, and today I have with me Astro Brony, and we are going to be talking about the fanfiction Anthropology by JasonTheHuman. I'm going to leave him to introduce it and himself. Take it away.
Hello, my name is Astro Brony here. I read fanfictions in the My Little Pony community. I have my own little channel for that. And today we're talking about Anthropology, the story in which our favorite mint green unicorn, Lyra Heartstrings, is obsessed with these odd monkey-like creatures called, it's called humanes. Am I pronouncing that right? Humanes?
I don't know, I've never heard of them.
I don't know. So yes, essentially the story starts off with Lyra and her interesting obsession with these strange creatures. We will call them humanes.
Humanes.
Or humans. Humanes, okay.
It'll never catch on.
I don't know. And originally Bon-Bon obviously doesn't believe her. And, you know what? We should probably start where this actually all began. I have it on a note card here. This all started in November 2010, episode 7 of My Little Pony, all the way back then. Wow.
Inception of the fandom.
Where we had Lyra sitting in a very odd pose on a park bench in Dragonshy. And that is where it all began, just like Derpy with her cross-eyed stare in that one scene.
And her one time that she shouts, "Muffins!" and suddenly she's obsessed with muffins. This fandom does do this, and this was some of the earliest examples of it. One sitting position, and suddenly an entire fic was born.
An entire culture.
Well, yeah, it started off as sort of a meme, didn't it? And it's grown and grown and grown, and this fic came out pretty early on, you're right, 23rd of December 2011. JasonTheHuman posted the first chapter. And as you said, this does detail Lyra's obsession with humanes. We should say now, there are going to be spoilers in this. So if you haven't read the fic...
So many spoilers.
Yeah. If you haven't read the fic, go and read it, or listen to the radio play version by Nightfalls Studios, which stars Emogak, and you should all go and listen to that because it's fucking amazing.
It really is. I've been listening to it again just to catch myself up back on the whole story of Anthropology, all the details, and it's so beautiful.
I think that's because Emogak has basically made the Lyra character her own. She does the voice so well, and others do now, they imitate her version of it. So I think she's sort of become the fandom's Lyra, the way that Bull Dumbo Rat became the fandom's Derpy.
Yes.
So all go and listen to that. We'll wait. There, we've waited. We're going back to discuss the fic now. Okay,
Indeed.
Take it away, Astro.
So, we have Lyra talking about humans, these strange, weird bipedal creatures with no hair on their body except for their heads, and Bon-Bon thinks it is ridiculous. But she keeps researching them, she finds these old mythological books on them. She looks, she's like, oh, it's a conspiracy, see? Door handles, rakes, these carts. They all seem to work for these creatures and these hands that these humanes have. So interesting. And she keeps wondering and wondering about it, and Bon-Bon she ain't taking it. She does not like it. She puts up with it, but she can get rather irritated with it.
So from there we have Lyra, after her research, being taken aside, I think it was Grand Galloping Gala, taken aside by Celestia, and told that in actual fact, she is a former human.
Dun 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 dun!
Which, most people had probably worked out at that point, due to a lot of clues that were given in the early part of the fic, which we're not going to spoil everything in huge amounts of detail, because the fic is worth listening to, because the world building and the contextual factors of this, and just the nuanced minutiae and the detail that JasonTheHuman gives it, it's worth going and just experiencing this for yourself. So, however we describe it will not be as good as experiencing the real thing. Of course, you all went and listened to it while we were waiting, so that's fine.
Yeah. I actually didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming.
Really?
When I was reading it the first time, I did not see that coming. My first big shock was actually the first thing that happens, which is Lyra's first confirmation that humans are real, which is Luna's response to it at Nightmare Night, when she goes and asks Princess Luna, and rather than a short retort like Bon-Bon or everybody else in the entire town saying, Lyra, there's no such thing as humans.
Yep.
What are you talking about? Don't talk about humans.
Yeah.
We tried to forget them. That was my first big, whoa, something's going on.
See, I'd seen a very telling piece of fan art before I got into this. And when Lyra gets to the human world, things from there on surprised me, because I didn't know what to expect from there. I did know that she was going to become a human, because Celestia does send her back to find her real family.
And this is where things get interesting, and I love the fandom. And this is, I think, one of the best moments of the fandom is a million monkeys with typewriters. This is Equestria Girls long before Equestria Girls was a thing. And this did it right.
Yeah.
This is what I wished Equestria Girls had been.
Well, Equestria Girls wasn't bad for something that had to fit into an hour and a half and have a fantasy adventure element to it. This fic had the opportunity to take longer, to give more detail, to flesh out its characters, to make it more time savvy what Lyra was going through, to give Lyra someone to stay with instead of sleeping on books in a library.
And she actually had the struggle of learning the whole culture of humans rather than Twilight just going to the school and her friends love her or whatnot. I don't even know.
Yep, I must admit, I love the scene in the McDonald's where Lyra's new friend just says, right, okay, fine, you're hungry? Well, I'll take you out for something just cheap to eat. I've only got a bit of money. And Lyra realizes only after she's eaten it that she's eaten a cow.
Meat. I saw that when she said, I'll take you somewhere to eat, and she eats something as delicious. My instant thought was, no.
Oh, please say you haven't.
Oh, no.
Like I said, I didn't read the fic itself until after I'd heard the audio play. And that scene, Emogat just killed it. Absolutely. All the people did. I don't think it was the ghost, actually. The actress who plays her friend was also amazing. Just everybody in that particular episode and that scene.
Audrey is played by the ghost, I think.
Is it? I wasn't sure, because she plays Bon-Bon. I wasn't sure if she played Audrey as well.
I think she plays Audrey, yeah.
In which case, see, I'm a big fan of the ghost, and I wish that she would do more, because she's got such an amazing voice, but she just doesn't do very much. And it's a crying shame, because she's amazing and mysterious.
Please do more.
Yes, if you're listening, Ghost, can we please have more of you?
Pretty please.
With cherry on top. But yes, that scene was amazing, and that one did stick in my head. And from there, we do go into Lyra exploring the human world, Lyra learning about her new family, finding out her new family, learning how to be part of their lives, them discovering she actually is their long-lost daughter, whom they thought had been stolen when she was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And things turn into a very slice-of-life episode thing for the majority of the second act.
Yeah.
And then the third act kicks in, because this is definitely a fic that has a 3-act structure.
And who is it to throw the whole plot out of whack and cause so many problems for Lyra? Why, Discord, of course!
Wish I knew the lyrics. Right, yeah, Discord chimes in, and it turns out he, spoiler, was the one who stole Lyra in the first place. And he's also responsible for why there are no more humans in Equestria, and I loved that plot point.
Oh yeah. They were destroyed 1,000 years before the current day, which I guess, if you think about that, the two worlds were running in parallel, maybe, and they were destroyed 1,000 years ago.
Very nearly, because they had sentient magical ponies and things in the equestrian world. It's like they almost run parallel that 1,000 years ago in our world, unicorns and things died out, and 1,000 years ago in their world, humans died out. Though it does beg the question of why unicorns and things died out in our world, because Discord was very much responsible for the death of the human race, and basically genocide. Discord in this, he was written in his Season 2 self, so he is a lot more malevolent than he became in canon after Keep Calm and Flutter On.
Yeah, well, I guess because Fluttershy put the stop on him.
Well, also just he became more mellow, didn't he?
He did. Well, then again, there was this week's episode.
I haven't seen it yet!
Never mind!
I do know that the fucking smooze is green! You had one job and you got the fucking colour wrong! How difficult was it to make purple snot and not actual snot?
Anyway.
So, not talking about that. Incidentally, we are because this won't go out for a few weeks. We're recording this on the 17th of May, the day after Make New Friends But Keep Discord premiered. I have not yet seen this episode, and to be honest, as a G1 fan, I'm not looking forward to it.
It's interesting.
It's an episode of MLP!
Stuff happens.
Yeah. But stuff also happens in Anthropology, which we shall get back to.
Lots of stuff happens in Anthropology.
Yeah, and
so,
I think,
Lyra gets
Discord...
sent back to the pony world as a pony because Discord turns her into a pony and she has to explain to her parents, yeah, guys, for the past 15 years, I've been a unicorn.
Yep, and they react pretty much as you would think they would. Oh my fucking god, you're a horse.
That's one of the things I like that Anthropology got right that Equestria Girls skipped over completely. In Equestria Girls, the explanation that Twilight had to give for I am a alicorn princess from another dimension was just Pinkie Pie ex machina. Whereas here, Lyra tells Audrey it, and Audrey freaks the fuck out.
And doesn't believe her, which is the more believable reaction.
Rather than just hugging you like, oh, that's so cool!
Yeah, we didn't have a Pinkie ex machina in this one.
I wouldn't believe that, even with a Pinkie ex machina.
To be honest, probably neither would I. Because Pinkie, everybody knows that she's actually just smoking the mushrooms from behind school. Or whatever. I don't even know. Do you smoke mushrooms? No. How can you tell I don't do drugs? Ah, no fucking...
I don't know.
I don't know, that weedy thingy. Anyway, so yeah, Audrey does not believe her. Nobody believes her until she is magically turned back into a pony and has to save the human world because Discord has been released and he has come through to this world and is quite enjoying the fact that he has another human race to wipe out because humans are as close to chaotic beings as he is.
Which is kind of true.
And the fic does predicate itself on this fact that humans are chaotic, and therefore Discord will be much more able to cause chaos in the human world, because there are more opportunities for it. Ponies balance their world on harmony. Humans balance their world on conflict.
It's one of those, harsh lights shined on humanity itself. It's kind of true.
It really is. And it's fiction holding up a mirror to reality and saying, look at thyself. Which is quite impressive for a fic about ponies.
It really is. So then going on from that, how do we stop Discord? The elements of harmony, of course!
Which don't work! Because Lyra fetches the main 6 and Applejack, and she brings them through. I love
So wouldn't
Applejack.
it be main 5?
Main 5 and Applejack, yeah. I love Applejack. But it's main 6 plus Applejack because Lyra becomes part of them.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah, except, they don't work.
Nope. You are in the human world now, and therefore the elements of harmony do not work with ponies.
Nope, because it's not pony harmony that can reassert itself in the human world. It has to be human harmony. Yeah.
And so, Lyra calls upon all the friends that she made throughout the entire story.
So during the second act, it wasn't just fiddle-faddling about in Slice of Life. She was, in fact, laying the groundwork, very, very subtly, for the third act. And the great denouement.
We have Audrey as kindness, which I can totally see. It's actually mentioned that she brings in stray animals, so connection to Fluttershy there.
And also the fact that she found a girl wandering about her town and just let her stay with her for a while.
Yeah, that too.
Just that minor thing.
Nathan as generosity, giving Lyra his guitar and also driving her around.
Things, yeah.
We have Randall as loyalty.
Yeah, this is kind of where I get into meh territory.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of characters who I don't think they were, considering that the fic itself is 31 chapters long. I don't think some of these characters got enough characterization to be in the finale.
Yeah, primarily Paul and Monica.
Yeah, Monica being somebody that worked in the local bookshop who helped Lyra learn about the human world, and Paul being someone she met on a plane.
Randall, on the other hand, there is an actual connection to him, and I read it in the comments. His band name was Crimson Thunder. The symbol for the element of loyalty is a red lightning bolt.
Well, I suppose that could work.
I mean, and he was apparently loyal, but...
It got more tenuous, the connection, as you went through them, because Audrey was obvious, Nathan was obvious, Randall was slightly obvious, and the other two, I kind of expected Lyra's sister.
Lyra's sister probably would have been a decent element of harmony.
I think that she probably
would have
had more connection.
But what would she have been?
Element of laughter?
Maybe.
Because what were Paul and Monica?
Paul was laughter and Monica was honesty.
Yeah, I think her sister would have made a better... Well, actually, laughter or honesty, because her sister totally believes her straight away about Ponyland and And Equestria, I say Ponyland, I've been talking about G1 with Goombasa, totally believes her about Equestria and Bon-Bon and the rest of it. And I kind of thought that was her being set up to be one of the elements. And she would fit really well as Honesty, because she never questions Lyra as being a liar. And she's the one person that Lyra tells everything to. Admittedly, she frames it as being a story that she's made up, but her sister just believes her totally. Remember, she runs off with Fluttershy when Fluttershy turns up. Oh my god, you Fluttershy!
Fluttershy!
Come up to my room, I want to show you all the paintings I've made of you, and it's not at all creepy stalky because I'm a kid.
Kids can never be creepy.
You've clearly not watched The Shining.
Fine. Alright then.
Or Children of the Corn, or Children of the Damned. Actually, there's a lot of creepy kids. Kids can be really creepy.
Fine, maybe it's just because I don't watch horror movies. There we go. Anyway.
But yes,
so
that was I felt.
Now work, and they turn Discord back into stone, who is taken away by the US government.
Yeah, that happened.
Interesting.
And at the very end, we have Lyra has been brought back to Equestria for a visit and speaks with Bon-Bon. And
as a human.
Yeah, as a human. And we have, it's like a bookend. It's like the very, very beginning scene of the first episode is Lyra and Bon-Bon talking over cake. And we end with Lyra and Bon-Bon talking over cake.
Yeah, all back to square one.
I must admit, I really like the fic. I think it did a ton of things right. I did have a couple of issues with the ending. One of which we've talked about, and the other one was just a structural thing of the final chapter, Harmony, ends with, I think it's Paul saying, what just happened? And then immediately we flip to 1 month later, and there is no follow-up. It's all tell, no show.
It's all, you have to guess what the heck they just did, and what happens next.
You can presume that the elements of Harmony, laser, rainbow cannon, everything back to normal, but it could have stood some follow-up.
Afterwards, like, how do you get out of there? How Twilight and everyone gets back? How this happens? And human interaction between the main six and
everybody
humans.
Else. Well, you mentioned before we started that you had at least one thing you found a problem with, so I've done the two negative things of mine, so what did you think?
At some point, anyway, I wrote down on a note card that I didn't like the dynamic between Bon-Bon and Lyra. I thought Bon-Bon was a bit of a bitch at times.
Yeah, I can see that.
He was a bit of a stick in the mud at times.
I think a lot of this comes from the fact that Lyra and Bon-Bon are often characterized as being the zany one and the stick in the mud.
Yeah.
And this was written very much to the max here. That Lyra physically changes herself, because before she goes to Celestia and finds out that she actually is a human, she invents a spell to give herself hands, so that she can play the lyre with hands.
And Bon-Bon
she's willing
the
to
hell out.
Well, when you think about it from the point of view of if she wasn't actually a human, this would just be bodily disfigurement.
Yeah, it would be.
And that's a psychological disorder.
Yes.
So if Lyra's being written to that nth degree of zaniness, if you want to call it that, Bon-Bon was just written to the nth degree in the other direction.
Oh, stick in the mud.
Very much.
Oh, Lyra, stop what you're doing, or I'm going to kick you out.
Some of this may actually have come from when the fic was written, that 2011, their personalities were not set in stone yet.
That's true, so actually I guess they might be from this.
Yeah, it might well be that what we know of now, what is the accepted fanon for them now, is actually based off of this, and it's less that they're written too harshly into this direction, and more that people have just softened what this fic started.
Yeah.
Although, that said, Allegrezza came out relatively the same time, if not just a smidge later, and that has a lot of Lyra Bon-Bon in there as well. And they're written completely differently in that. So
is University Days. University Days is completely...
See, I've not read University Days. How do those Lyra and Bon-Bon interpretations
Lyra... Bon-Bon is... neither of them is zany. Bon-Bon is not at all a stick in the mud. Bon-Bon is very happy, very cheery, very friendly. Lyra is... In the beginning, she's a complete bitch.
Wow.
Lyra is a complete and utter bitch, and it takes Octavia to tell her, look, you're going to lose all your friends if you don't stop.
Funnily enough, actually, thinking back, she starts off not quite completely that direction. She starts out as not very nice in Allegrezza too, that she and Octavia have a musical rivalry, and Lyra she and Octavia are constantly backbiting at each other and constantly sniping. She's not to the point where she's going to lose all of her friends, but she's not exactly pleasant unless she's being pleasant to Bon-Bon, because they've recently got married in that fic, and that's kind of how they're introduced, as Lyra returning to the music scene after her marriage. So, yeah, maybe it does sort of lend itself more and more to the idea that that Anthropology's version of these two characters, the ones that people seem to like more and ran with, because around the same time there were these other versions of them, and they didn't take root nearly as much.
I mean, this Anthropology is definitely one of the big pillars of the fandom.
Well, it's definitely one of the big pillars of Lyra Bon-Bon fiction. Although they're not a couple in this. And
no, they're not.
Yeah, I'm so used to I like them as a couple. I really, really like that they are an established lesbian couple.
They're a cute couple, and now they are established in canon to some degree.
They're established under inference.
Yes.
They're as established as they're gonna get. So we can read into this as much as we want to. I like them as a couple. I've always liked them as a couple. I mean, bloody hell, I'm writing a whole radio play about them being a couple.
Yeah.
And
I'm waiting to hear that.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. That's actually got Emogak as Lyra in it, although the ghost is not Bon-Bon in this one, it's the lost narrator. Yeah, and she does a pretty good Bon-Bon too.
I can imagine that.
Well, you're gonna hear this when it all comes out. When we finally have our music and art ready.
Yay!
But get off this point now. Yeah, I like them as a romantic couple, so in my head it automatically clicks over to those two are a couple. So when I was first listening to this and they turned up, I kind of just assumed that they were going to be romantically involved, and they're not. They're friends in this, but they're not actually very close.
No, Lyra leaves Bon-Bon for her own world. She just leaves her.
She doesn't
not even a goodbye.
Yeah, and it constantly seems like Bon-Bon is just tolerating Lyra being around.
Yeah.
She looks after her more out of a sense of duty and responsibility than because she actually likes her.
It really is.
And I must admit, that's nothing against the fic itself, because, like I said, this is based off a couple of background appearances at this point when it was first written, and it's a perfectly valid interpretation of them, but I didn't like that. I like them being close, and I like them being a couple, and if they're not going to be a couple, I still like them to, not just be tolerating each other.
It's a little interesting. But overall, I really like this story.
Yeah, go on then. What did you really, really like about this story then?
Well, first off, I just like how creative it was, how much it just takes from one little thing and all the character development. We get all these new original characters, and I like that. That does turn a lot of people off. The idea of having a fic that, for a large portion of this, Lyra's the only canon character in it. And considering she's a background pony, she's up for interpretation, as we've just said. So, for a large part of this, you could make the argument that it's populated entirely by OCs. It, to some degree, is.
And yet, it's still very compelling. People who have a thing against OC stories will probably give this a miss, but I think they are missing out. Oops, sorry, I need to burp. No! The trend continues. This is becoming a thing. I think I've burped on more of these podcasts than I haven't. Right, so, I must admit, this fic, I like it. It's accessible prose. It's not something that is given to bouts of huge amounts of description using multiple polysyllabic words that leave you scratching your head and going, what just happened? There are no, orbs for eyes in this.
Yeah.
But it's very accessible, it's very pacey, it keeps the plot up top, it doesn't delve into navel-gazing too much. It's very simple in a way. I liken it to sort of young adult fiction.
Yeah.
It gets the job done, it does its characterization, it doesn't need to spend a lot of time pontificating the universe. Although, to be honest, this one probably could, because it's an entirely different universe.
Well, it's supposed to be our universe. We're supposed to pick up on all the little details that are mentioned. It is supposed to be our world. They mention all sorts of things. The 2012 presidential election, I believe, is in there, and the mention of
which would have been really current,
9/11.
The election would have been really current, because if JasonTheHuman started this in December 2011, that meant that he wrote that into it while it was going on.
Oh yeah.
I think actually the other thing is, it's very subtle, but there's a lot of world building for Equestria in here as well. Because as Lyra is comparing her world with the human world, we learn a lot more about how Equestria functions and what pony society is like, and it's very subtle, and I like that. I like the idea of learning more about it without it being a gigantic info dump.
And it's all through Lyra's head, and see how all the puzzle pieces fit together, and it's a nice story. You may have seen things coming, I didn't see things coming, and I thought it was wonderful.
No, I'm not arguing whether it's wonderful or not. I'm just saying that from a writing perspective, I could kind of see when things were coming, but that's probably because I was looking at this from the perspective of a writer. That's what I would have done in that case. There's a lot of stuff that did surprise me. Admittedly, not as much stuff that surprised me as Background Pony did, which is the other big Lyra fic.
What did surprise you in this one?
What did surprise me? Well, like I said, the ending. Who the Elements of Harmony turned out to be. I really
Audrey
was.
And Nathan.
Yeah, I really wish her sister had been one. That to me,
that would
logistically
have been nice.
Worked.
Maybe her dad. Her dad.
Yeah, they had much more characterization, and the fact that they'd built up her dad and her sister being two of the Elements of Harmony would have fitted more.
You would have.
But then again, I suppose you couldn't have got the tension of everybody having to cross the country to get to her. But yeah, Paul and Monica, while nice characters, they were background characters. Her dad and her sister had been foregrounded as secondary tier. So then, we think that this fic is worth a read. We think that it's propped up a lot of fandom theories that came out of that episode, that I can't remember the name of, where Lyra sat like a human. And it started a lot of memes and a lot of things that have carried on today, even if people don't realise it was this fic that started them. And JasonTheHuman has to be commended for that. Because he went on to write more Lyra and Bon-Bon stories. There's another one that he wrote called... Hang on, I'll just check it. There's another one, I think it's called Caretakers he wrote. And that is a comedy. Yeah, Caretakers by JasonTheHuman. It's a dark comedy, and it is... fucking hilarious. It's wonderful. And in that one, he writes Lyra and Bon-Bon again, and it is really, really well written. It was written only in February 2012, so it was written while Anthropology was still going on. Bon-Bon's characterised a lot differently in that one. She's much less of a stick in the mud. They are still friends in that one, though. But that, if their characterisation in Anthropology doesn't strike you, or you just don't like OC fics, check out Caretakers by the same author, because it is brilliant, and I'll put the link in the doobly-doo. And would you recommend any Lyra and Bon-Bon stories, then? The ones that we haven't already mentioned?
I'm trying to think of all of them. Oh, it's the one that Goombasa read for Month of Lurv.
Oh, the Forever and Ever, or Happily Ever After?
Happily Ever After, yes.
Yes, I love that one.
That. It was so beautiful.
I do love that. And that one took a bunch of background ponies and made you care about them.
Every single one.
Including Pokey Pierce, who I've never heard in fiction before. It's like, oh my god, I want to hear more of this character. Nobody writes him!
There's so many characters that don't get written in, and then there are a bunch that do.
Yep.
Nobody knows
lots
why.
And lots of Scratchtavia, lots and lots of LyraBon, no Pokey Pierce, no Noteworthy. Ah, sigh. People who listen to this, write us some stories of this, please, and maybe we'll read them.
Maybe.
Maybe.
If they're comedy, I probably will.
Somebody write a Noteworthy Pokey Pierce comedy for him.
Do it.
He and Thornquill can read it. Alright then, so we best wrap this up then, because we've been talking for like half an hour.
We have.
Alright, thank you very much to Astro Brony for joining me here today, and for suggesting the topic of this podcast. Say bye-bye, Astro Brony.
This is Astro Brony signing off.
Be lovely to each other, and goodbye, everybody. I'll try not to burp next time.